So let's just get into it. I am Elaina, and you are?
David,
and we are both members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
And we are coming to you today from church because everybody is at home.
Social distancing themselves.
Unfortunately, which brings up one of the topics that we cannot avoid, which is the coronavirus. So I wanted to put out a couple of reminders for people about staying home if possible, washing your hands as often as you can. Don't touch your face and practice social distancing. I did read something this morning about how Apple did an update to our phones. So if you're curious about your symptoms and you want to know if maybe what you're feeling is coronavirus, you can actually say, "Hey Siri, do I have coronavirus?" And Siri will take you through a couple of questions to pinpoint your symptoms and advise you of whether or not it's time to go see a doctor, which is kind of awesome and also weird. So if you want to practice with that just to see what Siri's got, that's probably a good idea. I want to remind people that right now is the time to go and get your prescriptions filled, because if you end up in isolation and you don't have your medication, that's going to be an issue. There are stores in the area that are actually offering senior citizen hours. Specifically, their specific times will actually be on their websites. I only actually know about Target. I know that's Wednesday. Just check out their sites to see what their times are, and you can go in if you're a senior citizen and shop with people your age and not worry about quantity or having to stand in really long lines. So that's a really good thing to know. So you recently put up the sermon for this week.
Yes, me and Dan. I don't remember his last name though.
Yes. So Reverend Don actually put out the principle for the week, which is our second principle: justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And I think that we can talk a little bit about that principle and how we integrate that into our daily lives. So I want to make sure that people can kind of think of our principles in ways of what's happening today. So I actually wrote down a couple of things that you can use this principle in relation to the coronavirus. Practice this principle when you are at the stores and supplies are limited, especially the compassion part of it. I think with compassion comes patience. Practice it with your neighbors who need help, with friends and family that may need a friendly face while isolated. You know, we have Skype, we have Facebook, there's lots of ways.
WhatsApp.
Zoom, exactly. There's a lot of ways to keep in touch with those folks, and they may actually need to see a friendly face during this time. Practice it with your children who are stuck at home. They may all have a lot of energy.
Yes.
So we have to be compassionate to their plight and just be patient and try and give them some activities that they can do at home. And maybe take a little time to ourselves and find a closet somewhere or something. Okay, so let's see. One of the places I go to see news that's warm in my heart. Okay, so I thought it was a good idea to kind of give people a place to go to find random acts of kindness, because this is a very stressful time, and finding good things in the world can be kind of hard if you're not like actively looking for them. So there is a place on the internet. It's The Independent. It's like a news outlet that actually has a full page dedicated to random acts of kindness. So I have the web address here is independent.co.uk/topic/random acts of kindness, and you can just Google that and it will come up,
and it will be included in the description below the video.
Right. And the stories are warm, and they are just absolutely delicious, and they put a smile on your face. So if you have an opportunity to uplift yourself during the day, go there, because there's a lot of information there that will put a smile on your face. Yeah. All right. And so speaking of the service, we were talking earlier about Susan B. Anthony and the information that Reverend Don put out during the service, but there was a quote that hit me as especially just enlightening. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of touched on it. It goes, I pray every day, every second of my life, not on my knees, but with my life. And I think that is a really beautiful way to live your life, to put your prayer in action.
Yeah.
And not just pray like in a picturesque kind of way. Like you're actually making the world a better place and being a better person.
Yeah. Your prayer is showing that what you believe, you're active about what you believe.
Right.
You're trying to help execute whatever your prayer is, as opposed to just, please help me.
Look at me, Lord. So I think that's something that kind of goes along with that second principle is, you're giving people compassion, you're remembering to treat people equally, inclusively, and you're putting into action what you believe. And I think that's the most important thing that we do as Unitarians, is that we actually are part of the community. We believe what we say, and then we do what we say, which is really great. So it also made me think about these really beautiful women in our history who are Unitarians, which I have to admit I wasn't totally aware of, because I'm relatively new to Unitarianism. So I think that my idea of our history was a little bit narrow. Like I didn't realize that the history went back so far, and there were so many people who are actually part of bringing us to where we are today.
Right.
So since it's Women's History Month, I think it's a really good time to maybe reflect on the women who have been influential in our own lives. So I'm wondering, do you have any women who have been very influential into bringing you to be the person that you are now?
For me, one of the people who really stands out, well, two of them, but if I'm going to focus on one, probably my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother was, she was my primary babysitter when I was younger. And, she was a little old white lady from Bayside, New York. And, a lot of things about how I view the world and how I've moved through it, were shaped by her, not because they were values that were intrinsically, given to me, but just from wanting to mimic the person that I spent a lot of time with, and she was, I always jokingly, well, not necessarily joking, she was my favorite family member outside of my mom. And, we spent a lot of time together. Ironically, she wasn't a very compassionate or empathetic person, but...
So she's passed?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But she, looking back on it now, she always had a tremendous sense of duty to me, at least. She was at my high school graduation and then passed shortly thereafter. She was older, so, she was, I think, 2002, she was 86 when she died.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my great-grandmother was probably one of the biggest influences in how I developed as a person. Now, if we're talking about people who actually show compassion and involvement in their communities, and, if we're going in the vein of Women's History Month, as far as being, female leaders, my grandmother, she ran a community center down in New York City.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And there was like 500 people at her funeral. It's ridiculous. It's just... That's
incredible.
Yeah. And, she, I always used to jokingly, when I became an adult, I was lower class nobility, being the grandson of this woman who ran this community center that had hundreds of kids every year come through after school programs, summer camps.
Yeah.
And I used to, I'd see her. She was everyone's grandma. She was everyone's maternal figure, and then I'd get to spend one-on-one time with her when she'd get off at work. By going home and watching her soap operas with her, and
Yeah.
or getting her a glass of water from the kitchen. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting. I was surrounded by women my whole life.
Yeah.
My mom.
You talk about that quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciated them a lot. It was never, I never had, bad experiences other than, when I was being a knucklehead and had to get
of course
punished.
I can see that about you.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah. So that's everyone, though.
Yeah, my great grandmother and my grandmother, for sure.
That's great.
For sure. I enjoyed them a lot.
Yeah. For me, it was my mother. My mother, she was raised as a Southern Baptist, traditional Southern woman. And I think she still has a lot of that in her now. But she had a really just unusual, crazy spirit, which was very different from kind of how she was in church. I think we got more of the real her, because a lot of times in church, it's like an act. You have to act a certain way, be a certain way, that sort of thing. And even a lot of times in public, there's like this persona that you put on just to be kind of acceptable. But my mother was just like this crazy energy, which actually gave me the freedom to understand the world in kind of a different way, because she understood that as a young child, I was very curious. I had a lot of energy, and I understood things kind of in a different way than maybe my other siblings. I have 7 brothers.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a whole basketball team.
Literally.
Yeah. And so with that many boys, there's a lot of energy.
Were you
just
the only
there.
girl?
Yeah, I'm the only
girl. Oh, wow.
Girl. Yeah, I have a half sister, but that's kind of like a way before I came along.
Was that with your father or your mom?
We have different fathers.
Okay.
Yeah. But she didn't really grow up with us, so I ended up being the only girl there. So there was a lot of male energy.
Yeah.
So for me, like just having that and being the way that I was, because I was very much a traditional love pink girl. And when you have a group of boys around, it's really hard to maintain that. Because you want to fit in. But my mother just had like this very open, creative, calming energy too. Like she was an all around really great mom. She had her days, of course, but she kind of went out of her way to allow me to just express myself in a world that kind of didn't want Black girls to express themselves. So I thank her all the time for that. And the other person is actually my best friend who lives in Colorado. She and I were actually in the military together, and we kind of grew up a little bit together, because, when you join the military young, you're growing up in the military.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of just exploring the world, because we were in Germany, and our relationship has lasted 20 plus years, which is really great.
That's impressive.
Yeah, she is an inspiration, always upbeat, always looking for the good in things, and she's just a phenomenal person. And I think I aspire to be like her. So she's a good energy to have for me. Yeah. So those are 2 very important women in my life. So we celebrate women. They're wonderful. I should know. So one of the things I did want to focus on is cabin fever. I think some people by now might be feeling a little enclosed, and I just wanted to give a few ideas about what you could do to entertain yourself or your kids. I have one specific one with kids that I found, and I have a little bit of a list. So let me just go through the list, and then we can just stop and talk about each one if you want to. The first one is the Netflix with Friends. I did not know that this was a thing, that you could actually watch movies and interact with your friends on Netflix.
About I think it's a Chrome plugin.
Yeah, I think it's a Chrome plugin. But you can have conversations, like a little movie party, on Netflix, which I think is the coolest thing ever. So please, somebody do that and tell me if it's awesome. There's crafts and reading, and the reason why I put this on my list is because kids love crafts. Like, they're just bonkers for it. So Pinterest is probably one of the best places I've gone to find ideas of crafts to do. I don't do a lot of crafts because I'm a grandmother and I only have one grandchild who I don't really see a whole lot because of this coronavirus thing. But we're able to do our own crafts while on FaceTime and talk to each other that way. And for her, that's more fun than me just sitting there watching her,
Yeah.
weirdly staring at her. And one idea that I got from Pinterest that was really, really cool is an obstacle course in your hallway with toilet paper.
If you can find it.
If you can find it. If you can find toilet paper. I happen to have a little bit of toilet paper right now. So that would be a really cool thing to do. And it just looks interesting. It looks like a Mission Impossible kind of like they have to crawl in and out. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So somebody do it and tell me if it was cool. All right. So for me, the best thing to do is this one. Crack open a book and a great bottle of wine. You can't go wrong with that. That's an awesome night in. Have dinner with a friend via FaceTime or Skype or whatever platform you're going to use. Do a workout or yoga or practice your meditation. This is an awesome time to practice your meditation.
You have a lot of time on your hands.
Right. So, and we do a lot of meditation here, so that's good. So Pinterest. Also, get some spring cleaning done. Nobody wants to do that, but you have time to do it now. Spring cleaning. Clean out your inbox. I'm going to admit, this idea came to me when I saw that I have about 15,000 emails
I was about to say, you're,
in my inbox. Most of them are like solicitations, but I've been ignoring them for a really long time, and I'm going to get to it. I think this is the best time to do it. And finally, write an actual letter. I think people are so far away from writing letters, and letters are just romantic, sweet. They are considerate, and I love getting them, even if they're just like those little note cards, like thinking of you kind of thing. And if you do it, it shows that you took your time to think of them, put it pen to paper, and it's just a really sweet thing to do. So, when's the last time you wrote somebody a letter?
An actual letter?
An actual letter.
Gosh.
Not an email.
I don't know.
See?
I couldn't tell you.
It's so sweet. It's so sweet to get a mail. I know, like, I hate to say, like, you young people, but, like, for me, letters were an art. It was, like, this beautiful, cursive...
I think the last time I actually wrote a letter was probably in 2005 to my great-grandmother.
So write a letter to someone.
That's probably, yeah. Realistically, that's...
So there's probably someone in your family who would love to get a letter from you right now. Write one. I think it would be really great. All right, so we're going to close since we've had a pretty long session today from earlier. And I wanted to conclude things with a poem that I found by Brill Aschenberg. I hope I'm saying that right. It goes, "May words I say be fair and true. May love be a guide in all I do. May kindness sing within my heart, and may peace be with us while we're apart." I think that's an awesome sentiment because we do miss the faces of the congregation here, and it might be a little while before you actually get to see people.
Yeah.
So just remember to keep everybody in your thoughts and in your heart and send good energy out. So I guess the best way to close is just to say for everyone to stay in good health, take care of yourself, and make sure that you can come back when we're all able to. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.